On my 33rd birthday, I sat alone at a table set for 6. The restaurant was quiet, elegant, an environment that whispered of celebration, but the atmosphere felt hollow. I wore heels that pinched my feet, the discomfort so familiar it became part of the silence surrounding me. The wine in my glass swirled as I took a sip, but it didn't numb the hurt that was already creeping in. The people I had been waiting for, they never showed up. My phone buzzed. It wasn't the kind of message I was expecting. It wasn't happy birthday or can't wait to see you. Instead, it was a message from my mother. You're not our priority right now. They didn't forget. They made other plans without me. Using the money I gave them, they ghosted my dinner to throw a party for my brother. How do you come back from something like that? I blinked at the message. I didn't need to reread it to know exactly what she meant. It was cold, direct, and final. I had already known this would happen. I had spent weeks trying to convince myself that this time would be different, that this birthday would be different. This year I wanted to be seen. I wanted my family to show up for me just once. But instead, this was the gift I received. Not a celebration. Not even a call. Just a message that made me feel like an afterthought, as if I had only ever been an option, never a priority. Or maybe the better question was, why would you want to come back from something like that? I arrived at the restaurant 15 minutes early, just as the sun dipped behind the Denver skyline, casting long amber shadows across the sidewalk. The city buzzed, oblivious to my waiting. There was a slight chill in the air, just enough to make me pull the sleeves of my dress down, to shield myself from the cold that seemed to be creeping into my bones. I was glad I'd chosen the long-sleeved dress. It wasn't fancy, but it was deliberate. A quiet statement of effort, even though I knew no one was watching. The hostess greeted me with a polite smile, glancing at her list. "Party of 6, she asked. I nodded, smoothing the napkin in my lap. "Yes, Aileen. I made the reservation last week." She led me to a table near the window, the soft light casting a warm glow over the place settings. 6 seats were arranged neatly, with a small votive candle flickering at the center. It was a picture-perfect setup, the kind of table that invites conversation, the kind that welcomes people in. I sat at the end of the table, facing the entrance. I wanted to see them when they walked in, when they finally decided to show up. The waiter approached, his voice polite but distant. "Would you like to wait to order, or are they just running a little late?" I interrupted too quickly. "I'll wait," I said, though I wasn't sure if I believed it myself. He nodded, walked away, and I was left alone with the table. The minutes dragged on. I checked my phone again. It was 6:47 p.m. Clock ticked away. Still nothing. Zinnia was always fashionably late. That's how she'd been since we were kids. Curtis, on the other hand, would often lose track of time, getting caught up in something, anything. As for Mom, well, she never really arrived early unless it was for someone else's event. I tried not to overthink it. They would show up. They had to. I adjusted my fork, then again. A nervous tic I had picked up years ago. I couldn't stop myself. It was an unconscious ritual, one I turned to when the world around me was too loud, too overwhelming, too still. I had chosen this place for a reason. It was quiet, familiar, not too expensive, not too casual. It was the kind of restaurant that said, "You matter enough for me to plan this." But now I sat there alone. I wondered if they even remembered. If they even cared. Was I just another obligation to them? Another person they could take for granted? It felt like everything in me wanted to scream, but I couldn't. I just sat there, pretending that everything was fine, that it didn't hurt, that I was okay. To distract myself, I scrolled through my phone. An email from work. A sale at a store I didn't shop at anymore. I swiped aimlessly through the distractions, trying to avoid the reality that kept creeping into my thoughts. Then another message from Mom. I unlocked my phone immediately. The words on the screen sent a chill through me. "You're not our priority right now. Enjoy your dinner. No happy birthday. No, we're sorry we're late." Just those 13 words. As blunt and final as if they had been written in stone. It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't forgetfulness. It was deliberate. It was a choice they had made. I wasn't important enough to show up for. I stared at the message, reread it, then again. My throat tightened. My eyes stung, but no tears came. I wanted to cry. I wanted to shout. But I didn't. I just sat there empty. The wine didn't taste right. The food on the table, untouched, seemed foreign. I didn't want to eat it. I didn't want to stay. The waiter returned with a wrapped package in his hands. "Someone dropped this off for you earlier today. They said it was from your family." I smiled, the kind of smile you give to a stranger when you don't want them to ask too many questions. I thanked him, managing to make the words sound convincing enough. Inside I was shaking, but I couldn't let him see that. The wrapping was neat, clean. Zinnia always insisted on wrapping gifts with minimalist, matte gold, no bows, no ribbons. It was the way she had always done it, and it was the way this gift was wrapped. I unwrapped it carefully, almost reverently, as if unwrapping it would bring me some kind of answer, some kind of relief. Inside was a pale blue silk scarf. I froze, my fingers brushing against the soft fabric. Felt too familiar, too wrong. I had bought this exact scarf for Mom last Christmas. I remembered it clearly. The brand, the stitching, even the little snag near the edge where she had caught it on her ring. I held the scarf in my hands, and it hit me with the force of a punch. They had regifted it to me. The scarf I had chosen for her, for Mom. It was now mine again, but it didn't feel like a gift. It felt like an apology, one they hadn't bothered to make, one they hadn't bothered to write properly. I looked down at the card tucked beneath the tissue paper. "Happy birthday from all of us." But underneath that, faintly visible, was my own handwriting from last year. "Love you always, Mom." I had written that in the card for her. And now it was being repurposed for me. A message that had been rewritten over, as if my past, my love, could be rewritten just as easily. They hadn't even bothered to use a new card. I placed the scarf back in the box, my hand steady, but my heart wasn't. My breath felt shallow, and I wanted to scream, but I didn't. I just sat there, watching the candle flicker in the center of the table, as if the world kept turning, oblivious to the quiet ache that was creeping through me. A couple at the table beside me began to sing softly. A quiet celebration of their own. Glasses clinked. Laughter bubbled from the back near the bar. The world kept moving, kept turning, and I stayed frozen, stuck in the moment, unable to leave it. I lifted my wine glass and took a sip. It didn't help. I didn't cry. I didn't call. I didn't make a scene. I just sat there, alone in my disappointment. No panic. No drama. Just a weight settling inside me, something heavy and cold like concrete. The thing about being excluded enough times is that it eventually stops feeling shocking. You stop expecting them to show up. You stop waiting for a sign that you matter, for a sign that they care. I had lived through enough birthdays where my presence felt optional. Enough holidays where I ended up behind the camera instead of in front of it. Enough moments where I showed up and no one even noticed I was there. This time was no different, except it hurt more. Because this time I had believed it could be different. The world around me continued to spin. Outside, the streetlights blinked on one by one, casting soft glows that spread across the darkening sidewalk. A few cars passed by, their headlights cutting through the fog of my thoughts, but inside the restaurant, time seemed to slow. The table in front of me, set for 6, was now nothing more than a reminder of what wasn't coming. I had waited for them, had planned. I had hoped, even against the evidence of my own experience. I thought this year would be different. But as the minutes stretched into an hour, as the candle flickered and the soft hum of the restaurant grew louder, I realized that this wasn't just a missed dinner. This was a pattern. I looked at the empty chairs around me, each one a seat that should have been filled with someone who cared enough to show up, to acknowledge me, to make me feel like I mattered. But they didn't. And the longer I sat there, the more I realized that no matter how much I had hoped, no matter how much I had tried, no one was going to come. My phone buzzed again. A message from Zinnia. "I'm sorry I couldn't make it. I hope you understand. Happy birthday, Aileen." The words were hollow. A quick apology, sent out of obligation, and buried beneath the tone was something I couldn't quite put my finger on. Was it guilt? Or something else? It didn't matter. Her words meant nothing now. I had lived this moment too many times. The empty birthday cards, the empty invitations, the empty promises. This time, however, it felt different. Felt final. I wasn't angry anymore. The anger had burned off years ago, leaving only numbness behind. It wasn't anger I felt now, it was sorrow. Sorrow that I had built so much of my life around people who never saw me. Sorrow that I had invested so much energy into relationships that left me empty, without any return. I scanned the restaurant, taking in the laughter and the conversations at other tables. People were gathered around, celebrating each other's company. And here I was, alone, sitting at a table for 6 that wasn't meant for just me. Every smile and every clink of glass sounded distant, foreign, like it was happening in another world altogether. I lifted my wine glass, taking a sip, hoping the bitter taste would somehow offer me comfort. But the wine was flat, just like the evening. The world outside my window was still moving, people still going about their lives, while I sat frozen in my seat, waiting for someone to remember me. And no one did. The waiter came by again, a slight tension in his posture, but he said nothing. He must have seen the emptiness in my eyes, the absence that wasn't just at the table but within me. "Would you like to order now, or do you need more time?" he asked gently. His voice felt like a lifeline, but it was too late. There was nothing left to order, nothing to be served. Not in this place, not for me. "I'll wait a bit longer," I said, even though the words felt weak as they left my mouth. 'Twas a lie. I wasn't waiting for anyone anymore. I wasn't waiting for anything. The wait was over. I glanced at the phone again, then quickly shoved it back into my bag. I didn't want to see the messages anymore. I didn't want to read about how they couldn't make it, about how they had to cancel last minute. I didn't want to see the polite excuses, the last-minute pleas that they would make it up to me next time. There would be no next time. I had been patient long enough. It was strange, this realization. It didn't come with anger or hurt like I had expected. Came with something much quieter. The soft, steady hum of recognition. I had never been the priority. I had always been the afterthought, the one who was pushed aside when more important things came up. I had spent my whole life chasing people who would never be there. I had spent my whole life convincing myself that I wasn't invisible when, deep down, I knew I was. A few more minutes passed before I stood up, placing my napkin neatly on the chair. The waiter had returned to check on me, but I simply smiled and thanked him, knowing it was time to go. I paid my bill, leaving a generous tip, even though I wasn't sure why. Maybe because, despite everything, I wanted to prove I wasn't bitter. I wasn't angry. I was just tired. As I walked out of the restaurant, the cool night air hit my face, sharp and crisp. It felt like a slap, but I didn't flinch. The sky above me was dark, but there was still a faint glow on the horizon, the last remnants of the sun's warmth. I didn't want to go back to my apartment, but I had nowhere else to go. So I did. The elevator ride was quiet, too quiet, and the soft ping when the doors opened felt like the final nail in a coffin I had long since buried. Inside, the silence of my apartment surrounded me, thick and suffocating. I dropped my purse on the counter, took off my shoes and sank into the couch. The world outside still hummed with life, but in here, there was only the silence. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't even feel the weight of the disappointment, not in the way I thought I would. Instead, there was just this dull ache in my chest, like the slow creep of a bruise that had already started to fade. It didn't hurt anymore. It was just there, a part of me now, like an old scar that had healed but never fully disappeared. I opened my phone again. A text from Curtis. "I'm sorry, Aileen. I was going to come, but they changed the plans last minute. We're celebrating my promotion. I'll make it up to you soon." I didn't even bother responding. It didn't matter. What mattered was the pattern. What mattered was the fact that this wasn't the first time. I had heard it all before, felt it all before. And still I had shown up. Still I had hoped. I clicked on my Photos app, scrolling through images of past birthdays, the days that followed, moments when I had tried so hard to belong. I woke up each morning not to the buzz of my phone. I was the one holding reminders from my family that I was expected to be something I wasn't. I had been there, but I had never truly belonged. There was something calm about the silence, a bystander in my own life. Something I had never experienced before. My finger hovered over a picture. I didn't check my phone for messages that morning. Holding a glass of wine, I should have, smiling politely at the camera while everyone else took my time with a little laughing, talking, enjoying each other's that had once been a blur. The picture was so trying to live up to everyone else's expectations. So painful in its perfection. Took my time. It was supposed to be a celebration. I had gone through so many years of bending myself to fit into places where I wasn't wanted. I swiped to the next trying picture, to get approval from people who had already made up their minds about me. Until I landed on a photo from a family trip to Sedona. It was them. I had paid for the lodging, created a narrative that didn't include everything. And for too long, I had tried to rewrite it. All I could see was how small I looked. No matter how hard I tried, no one had even acknowledged my contributions. Beautiful daughter, my presence had been optional. Nothing had ever changed. I wasn't even in the group photo. And now it was clear. I had taken it. Nothing ever would. The weight of it all settled in again. I stood in front of the mirror that morning, brushing my hair. There was something different. But this time it felt different. There was clarity. I wasn't looking at myself like I used to. It wasn't rage. Approval, waiting for something to change. Realization. Instead, I looked at myself as I was. Finally understood. The woman who had been left out too many times. I had spent years begging for a seat at a table that was never meant for me. But also the woman who had finally realized she was enough. For the first time, I wasn't chasing after them anymore. It wasn't the sudden realization of trying to prove that I deserved to be seen, but a gradual awakening. They had made their choice, it was the understanding that I no longer needed anyone else's validation to be whole. I didn't need their validation. That wasn't serving me. I put my phone down and I looked around at the empty space in front of me. Later that day, and for the first time in my life, I felt the weight lift. I didn't pick it up immediately. I didn't feel hollow anymore. I didn't feel rushing to check it. Eventually, I reached for it, half expecting another message, some kind of follow-up from one of them. Probably Curtis or Velma, wanting to explain or make an excuse. But when I opened the message, it wasn't from them. It was from Mara. Hey, just wanted to give you a heads up. My aunt ran into your mom yesterday. She said Velma told people you're exaggerating things. Making drama. Said you've always been a bit much. I just wanted to let you know. I read the message twice, then again. There it was. The familiar pattern. The rewriting of the narrative, trying to make me into the villain, the difficult one, the one who always made everything about herself. It wasn't enough that they had chosen not to show up. Now they were trying to erase the truth. But this time, I didn't feel the sting that I used to. I didn't feel the anger that would have boiled inside me. Instead, I closed the message, set the phone down, and exhaled. It didn't matter anymore. I walked over to the counter where my laptop sat, opened it, and pulled up the document I had started that morning. The one where I had begun to write everything down. The things I had given, the things I had done for them, the moments I had sacrificed. All for people who never bothered to notice. I started a new document. What I owe myself. It was simple, but it felt like everything. Each word I typed felt like an act of reclaiming my own life, my own truth. I didn't need to prove anything to anyone anymore. I didn't need their approval. I began typing, listing all the things I had done for them. Helping Curtis with rent when he couldn't make ends meet. Buying Zania the gift she had never even thanked me for. Taking care of the family finances when no one else could be bothered. It was all there in black and white. Car loan relief. $2,800. Mortgage bridge payments. $5,200. Emergency dental for Zia's son. $600. Motorcycle celebration, unknowingly funded by me. $1,200. No thank yous. No invitations. No acknowledgement. The list was long. I had given and never once asked for anything in return. I didn't expect anything, but it hurt that none of it had ever been enough. None of it had ever meant anything. I took a deep breath and kept typing. I didn't want to feel the anger anymore. I didn't want to let them have that power over me. I opened a new folder on my desktop and named it Closure is Mine Now. Inside, I began to organize everything. Screenshots of the messages they had sent, pictures from family gatherings where I wasn't even in the frame, receipts from the times I had bailed them out. It wasn't to show them. It was for me. I saved it all. I wasn't going to erase any part of my story just because they wanted to rewrite it. I kept the folder open, staring at it for a moment. Felt like a contract, an agreement with myself. No one could change my truth, no matter how hard they tried. Then the phone buzzed again. I didn't check it right away. I knew who it was from. It was Velma. It was always Velma, always the one who showed up when it was too late. When the damage was already done. The message read, "We need to talk. Your silence isn't helping anyone. The family is falling apart, and it's your fault." I almost laughed. There it was. The familiar blame. The refusal to take responsibility for anything. I had heard it all before, but this time it didn't have the sting it used to. I deleted the message before it could make me second-guess myself. I didn't need to engage with her. I didn't need to explain myself anymore. For years, I had been chasing a family that didn't want me. I had been begging for a seat at a table that wasn't even mine. And now, for the first time, I was walking away. Not out of anger, but out of peace. I didn't need to fight anymore. I sat back in my chair, looking at the files on my computer, the evidence of everything I had given. I was done. Done with trying to prove myself. Done with fighting for a place where I had never truly belonged. But I was not empty. I wasn't broken. I was whole. I walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, and sat down. The world outside was still, quiet. The only sound the distant hum of the city. I felt the calm of it, the quiet that came with choosing myself over the chaos. My phone buzzed again, this time a voicemail from Curtis. I hesitated, my finger hovering over the screen. I didn't need to hear it, but something in me itched, so I pressed play. His voice came through, flat, like he was reading from a script. "Mom's freaking out. The mortgage is overdue again. The bank's calling. You knew this would happen when you pulled out. Just wanted to let you know." I didn't feel the rush of anger that used to come with his words. I didn't feel the sting of betrayal. Instead, I just listened to the coldness of it, the way he expected me to come running, expected me to fix it again. But not this time. I forwarded the message to my attorney. "Do not engage." Then I closed my phone and set it down. I didn't need it. I didn't need them. For the first time in my life I felt free. Not just free from them, but free to define what came next. I wasn't disappearing. I was reclaiming my space. I grabbed my jacket, slipped on my shoes, and walked out the door. The night air was crisp, and as I walked down the street, the weight of everything that had happened began to lift. I wasn't running away. I was moving toward something new, something that had been mine all along. I wasn't waiting for someone to save me anymore. And for the first time, I didn't need to explain why.
就是